Hello, folks. This is Steve, AB4L. I'm waiting for YouTube to finish rendering my latest wonderful upload. Now, you know that nothing in this episode is a promotion, nor is it a recommendation. So I'm just looking at slashdot.org. As usual, news for nerds. Is there anything interesting? Something about China's lunar rover. Who cares? When I was a kid, yes, I remember the first lunar orbital and the first lunar landing and the second one. Yes, yes. Increasing wildfires. Boy, talk about wildfires. I read some news just the other day that actually I was sad to see it. It was a video clip on YouTube of a Greek water bomber working to put out wildfires on a Greek island, and it crashed, and the two people in it died. And the reason why that kind of tugged on my heart is a few years back, and I did a video about it, there were fires on Mount Carmel by Haifa City in Israel. And the fires were getting down. The whole mountainside is, on the west side, is covered with high-rise apartment buildings. And the fires were working their way up between the buildings. And among others, those Greek water bombers came to Israel, and they'd scoop up water out of Haifa Bay. But what would get me was the maneuvers. They were flying below the tops of the buildings to get to the fires, to drop the water on them. Risky business. Are electric vehicles killing the spare tire? This one caught my eye because literally yesterday, pardon me, I have an appointment in Greensboro this coming week, and I decided to check my tire pressures, and my left rear was a bit low. So I went to a gas station down here that has free air, and I was able to inflate the left rear tire to the proper pressure. But then I checked, because I have a hand gauge, I checked my spare tire and it was at 40 pounds. And it says right on it, inflate to 60. I tried to do it. Now this is air for free. And after trying for about 5 minutes, and the pressure on when I put the gauge on it didn't change, what conclusion did I draw? That the air for free pump has a maximum air pressure of 40 pounds. There's no gauge on it. There used to be, but somebody ran over it. It's just got the end thing, so you have to have your own. So when I saw this, are electric vehicles killing the spare tire? Now my spare tires, they were, Honda told one complaining customer that if the vehicle's in an accident, the spare tire can damage the electric battery, which could cause a failure in the battery. I guess they're talking about EVs. But according car design experts said the explanation was plausible, but far-fetched. Now, MG car. Yeah, that'll do. The battery's in the back. The engine's in the front, but the battery's in the back. How do I know that? How do I know that? That's a 1969 MGB. How do I know that? Here's a 1974, but I am talking about that model. How do I know that? Well, I was a college dropout, and when I went back to college to try again, I was like a dozen years older. And my brother had started a foreign car repair business. What kind of a one-man garage? Foreign car repair business in the 1970s, second half of the 1970s. So occasionally we'd get one of those in. That's how I know the battery's in the back, in the trunk, in the boot, as the Brits call it. Maybe that's what they were talking about. Maybe that's what they do with these cars, and that they're not electrical vehicles. I don't know about that. I only know about old MGBs. There's a simpler explanation for the move away from spare tires. They're too big and heavy. Now, when I owned my first car, when I owned one of those, you see the size of the tire. That was the size of the spare tire too. No, just show me the picture. So I own one of these now. It has 4 regular sized tires, but the spare in the back is not a full size tire. Keep that in mind. They're too big and heavy, and people don't really need them anymore. Car manufacturers have been ridding their sedans and smaller SUVs of full-size spares for some time. In 2018, 60% of the vehicles that tested over the previous years had a small size temporary tire called donuts. Let's see if they have any pictures. All right, here's a regular tire right here, and here's the donut. That's what I have in the back of my car. Oh, the battery's in the front with the engine. So I'm covered for what the first sentence was about. But this is what I have, and that's what now, this tire on my car, you're supposed to inflate it to 32 pounds per square inch, cold. This one you're supposed to inflate to 60. Why? Because the surface area of the tread is how much the weight of the car over the whatever wheel you're going to put the spare on is as you're rolling is distributed over a larger amount of square inches than the donut tire. You follow that? And so if the donut tire, when you put it on under the full weight, like under the front wheels where the engine is, if it has a less than 1/3 as much square inches depressed against the ground as it's rolling, then you might need 3 times or twice the inflation pressure for car stability at speed. And I've seen people just driving around with them. I've seen people with more than one donut on their car. It's obvious that they could get those from a salvage yard for $5 because they don't have $150, $200 for a real tire on their car. I'm talking about around here. I'm talking about recently. Okay, so I'm reading down, and they're going through all of this. And they talk about how many flat tires there are, and how tires are better built now. And I've noticed in mine, when I've gotten something in there that they do tend to not tear or explode as much. I had, I always buy the hazard deal with them. It's really paid off. It's like $16 a tire, but if you use it a couple of times, turns out the people who do my tires, not only did they, in one case, replace the tire, but, my donut tire, I used to have to inflate it every month, but I didn't know why. And after that last one where I got the hazard fix up, they went around and they took the rust off the rims of all my tires, and I think he put a new stem valve in, the donut tire, because it's been holding steady pressure since. But buying a hazard stuff from a dealer that's won't do you any good. It's when you buy it from somebody that's made a big reputation. Oh, is that why they have 4 locations in Asheboro alone? Because they're so popular? Oh, I'm talking about tires. I didn't mention any name, right? People around here know who I'm talking about. Trust me. Okay. Now they're talking about EVs. The extra weight always makes it a little harder to meet fuel efficiency requirements. So any way you can ditch weight, the EPA's, you got to meet the Environmental Protection Agency. And they're going to up it to what? So then I get down to this last paragraph. But Gil Tal, director of Electric Vehicle Research Center at UC Davis. Doesn't California just have recently passed a law where you won't be able to send any more gas-powered vehicles of any kind in about 10 years? Something like that. So that figures Electric Vehicle Research Center at UC Davis? I thought that was a hippie campus. Oh, no, that's Berkeley. Or is it Davis? So Gil Tal, director of Electric Vehicle Research Center at UC Davis, pointed out to the Times that today's tires are just much better and more durable than they used to be. And then they quote him. Now, remember, my mind wanders. And I thought the first thing that popped into my mind as I read that sentence is, what the hell is an Israeli doing in California at UC Davis, the director of the Electric Vehicle Research Center? Wouldn't that have occurred to you? That he's Israeli? Wouldn't it? Institute of Transportation Studies. Center updates. I'll bet that's not him. He doesn't look Israeli. International EV Policy Council. Postdoc. So they're advertising for postdocs to come in here. So anyway, I'm sure he's Israeli. So let's highlight it. Come on, search engines. Gil Tal. There's his picture. He kind of looks, could be an American. See, it's my contention that the Israelis are into everything that's cutting edge worldwide. And I'll explain to you why. I'm sure he's Israeli. I'll explain to you why he's in California. Director, the Plug-in Hybrid and Electric Vehicle Research Center. That's what it says right there. Transportation Research Director, talking about worldwide. Transportation Research Director, the China Center for Energy and Transportation. This is the first time I'm reading this. Admission Graduate Advisor. He serves on the committee deciding who will get into the graduate school. Graduate Groups in Transportation Technology and Policy. Okay. Travel Behavior, Alternative Fuel Vehicles, Travel Demand Modeling, Transportation Policy Planning, Environmental Policy, Non-Motorized Transportation, Creation Use of Data Transportation Planning Processes. Okay, here's his biography. Gil Tal holds a PhD in Transportation Technology and Policy from UC Davis, so he's inbred. They liked him so much, and it was probably a fairly new faculty, and somebody died, so they decided to make him the head honcho. And an MA in Geography and Environmental Policy and Planning from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. That means that he got his bachelor's degree in Israel also. Why would I know that he's Israeli? Why would I know? TAL, Israeli General. An Israeli general. Israeli General Israel Tal. They're putting the suggestion there. Israeli General Israel Tal. Wikipedia. There he is. I know who he is. Nicknames. Talik. T-A-L-I-K. Oh. And Mr. Armor. What do you think they mean by armor? It's got something to do with vehicles. Yisrael Tal. Born September 13, 1924. Died September 8, 2010. Also known as Talik. In Israel, politicians, generals, and people, men especially, have nicknames. Even Even if you were in the rank and speaking to him, if you used his nickname, it would not be considered an insult. What's the nickname of the current Prime Minister of Israel? Not Netanyahu. Bibi. BBPM Israel. Who are they showing me? Benjamin Yahuna. Okay. Israeli General Dado. David Elazar. Otherwise known as Big D or Dado. Born in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia. Died in Jerusalem. Why would we know him? He served in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Notice how they say Arab-Israeli War there. Suez Crisis, 1956. Six-Day War, 1967. Yom Kippur War. He was Ramat Kal. Ramat means overall. Kal means everybody. You are Aluf, which is brigadier, and then when you become the head of it all for 3 to 4 years, Army, Air Force, Navy, everything, you're Ramat Kal. And it probably shortened his life because of what happened. Anyway. Oh, that's interesting. To a family in the Sephardic heritage. Oh, not Ashkenazi. And he immigrated to Palestine in 1940 with the Youth Aliyah program and settled on Kibbutz Ein Shemer. I was on Ein Shemer for about a year. No, he wasn't connected with Ein Shemer at that time. It's when he first came to British Mandate Palestine, and they had to have some place to plant these people to get them acclimated and started in their life. And he landed in Kibbutz Ein Shemer, which was founded around 1932. And we were talking about nicknames. So his nickname is Talik. Oh, let's see. He was born in Mandatory Palestine in 2010. Died at age 85 at Rehovot, Israel. He ended up being Aluf, Major General. He was never a Matkal. What wars was he in? World War II, the 1948 War of Independence, the Sinai War, the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, all the ones of Dado, but one more, because he was a little older. Did they know each other personally? Of course! They were serving at the same time. So why did I go to this guy? Well, his name is Tal. And that's why I made the connection. So, Israel Tal, also known as Talik, was an Israel Defense Forces general known for his knowledge of tank warfare. Well, that's got nothing to do with electrical vehicles, but it does have to do with vehicles. So subconsciously, that was another possible connection. Because we're talking about the guy at UC Davis. It's the big shot researching future transportation vehicle modes. I don't know if he could, and was the lead and for leading the development of Israel's Merkava tank. When I was in Israel, and I left a year after the Yom Kippur War, our main battle tanks, notice I said our, when you're living on the Israel-Lebanon border and a war starts and they're fighting an armored battle 20 miles away, and it's 160 of Israeli Centurion tank, 1973, otherwise known as a shot. We had 160 of them 20 miles away on the Golan Heights, and the Syrians hit them with over 1,000. And the Syrians tried for 3 days. The Israel Air Force was shut out of it for the first 2 days because of the SAM missile barrages. And our 160 ground them down. That on the end of the third day, even though we were decimated, nothing left of the 160 to speak of, maybe a handful. The Syrians had had enough and they pulled back. But if you know the history of Israel and our relationship, see, I said our again. I was there. Us against them. Especially about the Mirages, the airplanes. Somebody decided that maybe Israel should think about producing its own jet fighters and its own tanks so that nobody in another country can play politics with you for utterly crucial armaments to defend yourself. So that the 50 Mirage 5s, that Israel designed that were built in France was sold to Libya instead of being delivered to Israel as they've already paid for. Excuse me. It's a long time ago, 50 years ago. So he's the father of the Merkava. And that's why, as I read this, I thought, the Israelis are into everything, aren't they? Oh, can we find out anything else about him? So there he is, smiling. Let's see if we can get to LinkedIn. Yeah, he's got a LinkedIn. Let's see if I can go to LinkedIn. Or if they're going to, LinkedIn's, I just put a video up about how LinkedIn's having so much trouble. So you see? They're not going to let me see it. They're not going to let me see it. Let me just click directly. They're going to do it there too. Did you watch my video about what's going on and why they're doing this? Let's see if they let me in. They're doing the usual shit. They do nothing. Go watch that video and you'll see why. Okay. Just wanted to find out a little more about the guy. But I guess I'm not allowed to. How do these Israelis get into everything? I don't know. Steve A. for you. Just having fun. Saying see you in 73. Oops, folks, I said I was going to tell you something, and remember we were talking about the fellow who's the head of this. Where's his picture? What did they just do to me? Little mouse, move. There he is. I said I was going to tell you why he's here. This is an addendum. I know nothing about him, but I'm going to tell you why he's at Berkeley. It said that he got a master's degree in geography and then environmental policy and planning from the Hebrew University. So he may have been interested in transportation aspects early on. And then he came and he did his postdoctoral researcher at the Center for Global Metropolitan Studies and UC Transportation Center at Berkeley. Okay. When I lived in the Philadelphia area a really long time ago, I met an Israeli at a party, actually in the house where I was living, but upstairs. And I got to know him a little bit. An Israeli. He was a cancer researcher at one of the hospitals in Philadelphia. And he told me that the reason why he came to the United States was that when he got his education and finished his degrees in Israel, knowing that he wanted to be a cancer researcher, he also came to realize that there were no positions available. All full up. Now, Israel today has a population smaller than New York City, and at the time I'm talking about, Israel's population was less than 5 million. So how many cancer researchers do you suppose Israel at that time, 60 years ago, was likely to have been able to support, irrespective of where they got their grant money? You have to have a position where you're full up. So he came to the United States. Now, he was a pretty smart guy. And he was able to get a position in Philadelphia in a name brand institution known for their cancer research and treatment. If the guy went there, but he was a dummy, he would never have become the director of the institution. And you can probably suppose that even in modern times, now I'm looking at him, and I'm guessing he came to this, let's see, does it give the dates? Yeah, between 2008 and 2010, 13 years ago. Whatever Israel was getting really good at, probably the kind of thing he was interested in was not a main interest, main emphasis, and a main opportunity area. So he went where there might be one. That's a guess. I know nothing about him. I'm thinking about somebody that I met 60 years ago and why he came to the United States. The other thing, I spoke of General Tal, same family name, not necessarily related in any way. I wanted to show you this. It's interesting that this memorial is at Latrun. Just look up the Battle of Latrun, 1948. So this is a memorial to, and I'll read it for you. First of all, this here, right here, this word, talik. That's his nickname. So if you're walking up to the monument from a distance, what's the first thing you're going to see? You're going to see that. Think of the kind of memorials that you see here. If it was Biden, would they be giving his, would the memorial have an emphasized word, the big guy? Well, that's his nickname to some people. There's General Tao's nickname. And what it means is Little Tao. I bet that's actually what it means, Little Tao. He was a giant. And the top line reads, the General Israel Tao. So that's where, if you get close enough, you can see, if you didn't know the nickname, you can find out who that person is. And it makes it clear from his dress that he's a battlefield commander. Take a look at it. He's got his binoculars, he's got this. And where are half of Israel's armored battles? In the desert, in Sinai. Steve A. before y'all, just kind of reminiscing too, saying see you in 73.